for CJ. They're at a -4 scoreline right now, going up against KT, who is at a +10. A lot of these teams have just better scorelines than CJ, and they go up against KT now and then Africa in the next match.
So to give clarity to the fans at home, you might wonder how the playoffs race works in Korea. The way it works is that the first tiebreaker after just game score is going to be the overall, after just the match score is the game score. So it's going to be all about whether you're winning those clean 2-0s or whether it's just a +1 if you win 2-1. And the thing is that CJ have been winning scrappy, long games, 2-1 series, and especially in their first iteration pre-BDD, lost 2-0 a lot, so their overall game score is -4. Even with 2-2-0 wins, they will move to just even, 0 game score. Compare that to Jin Air Green Wings, who already have 10 match wins. If they are to lose their next 2 matches, they have +7. The most they could fall to is +3, so they will always finish higher than CJ. CJ's only hope is that a lot of results around them go their way, and that's all they can hope for, because they can only get to 0 and they can only finish 5th. They can go no higher.
Yeah. See, though, the bans are coming out here. Just the last ban from KT that we're waiting on, but it will be Nidalee Silver Corky, taken away by CJ. Azir, of course, taken away from BDD, as well as that Varus out of his hands. And now final ban getting ready to come out is going to be Poppy, taking that one out of Untara's hands, which could just relegate him back over to the Maokai, something that we repeatedly see him pick up, but Kallista's made it through.
He's a good gangplank as well, and as you mentioned, Kallista, who got another batch of nerfs in patch 6.6, so we've seen her deprioritize to the point where we've seen a lot of picks, not necessarily falling through drafts, but
she got some trades. She got the up to 27% attack speed when she's next to her Oathsworn. So there was a little bit of an exchange there. Wasn't a flat nerf to that Kallista, to be fair. But again,
on this patch though, on 6.6, also lost percentage health damage on
that is
W.
True. That is
also
true.
The amount of laps the Sentinel does goes down.
3
so
instead of 7.
It's again, overall a very heavy nerf over a lot of different patches. And CJ looking for a first pick, not reaching for something like the Gangplank. Untara's look good on Gangplank, look good on Maokai and Poppy. Those are his 3 champions. He's going to go with a bubbling pick. They're going to go with the Kindred.
Yeah. Well, they have to go for this because Kindred has been one of Bubbling's best champions in the jungle. Definitely don't want to see him pull out the Gragas. So just go ahead and first pick that one in. Now KT playing around with the thought of picking up that Kalista for themselves. We saw this.
Yeah,
you got to flash the Malzahar. We saw Fly play that one against Rox in Game 3, and they found a victory with that.
They are on the red side. That's when we saw the Malzahar pick. Outside chance we'll see it again this series, but certainly going to be 5th round of the draft. Plenty of shenanigans just mousing over champions. Probably going to be the power bot lane, Lister Alistar. Speaking of flashing champions, Mad Life, of course.
I would love to see that Blitz locked in. What better day could you play it on than April Fool's Day?
New buffs to Jarvan, one of Daydream's signature champions. You might see that from the jungle in future series, but of course not in this game. We've been spoiled, and speaking of being spoiled, no Ryze ban, no Ryze first round pick. Ryze still looms as a potential flex on either side of the draft, so let's see where CJ goes.
I was going to mention that, but yeah, good on you to note that as well. So yeah, Ryze does make it through, and we saw how well Saucin played it in Game 1. They first picked it even, and it didn't get punished. So we could just see that one come out from either side. CJ playing with much more standard picks as far as the last couple of weeks have gone, so we might just see the Braum pick up here.
CJ are very much looking to be picking Jin this game. That's why they haven't gone for an early round AD carry. Now, of course, they may be forced into something like a Lucian or something safer, but Jin has a pretty good laning matchup against Kalista, and if they can create somewhat of a front line, which of course Braum will do very well, and there's definitely a chance that Kramer goes to Jin. He's been next to Prey, probably the most impressive Jin. Soul is also on Kongdun Monster, has looked good on that champion. Waiting to see what KT show. They've only shown the bot lanes so far. Score has his pick of junglers outside of Kindred admittedly, so hard to find a champion that can skirmish to the level of the Kindred, but he's a magnificent Gragas player, famously, and maybe it's time to start picking champions to really deal with the Lamb's Respite. To some degree, that the Lee Sin would do that as well, but maybe he's going to go to Comfort. Again, former AD carry, the Immortal Score, sticking with type and going with Graves jungle, and they only now have the single way to displace out of the Lamb's Respite, at least with the first 4 picks.
Yep. So Graves coming in, so going to be looking to match aggression against this Kindred. Would have been interesting to see the Lee Sin come through. In a 1v1, you can certainly win that fight if you're fairly even, because you can always kick her out with the Dragon's Rage.
Outside chance the Graves will be flexed to mid, but very unlikely.
I think it's going to be the jungle pick here for sure. The Maokai picked up as well, so picking something away from Untara. But we do have the Gnar available, something that's been on a return as far as counter picks to that Maokai go. The Gangplank is also up for grabs, so they decide to rotate over to that one.
With the lock-in of the Maokai and with Alistar in the first round, maybe they're feeling like Jhin is too risky. So the teleport flank, no better target than the no-escape Jhin to lock down, so maybe forced onto Lucian duty will be Kramer. See if there's a last-second change. They're looking to pick up the Nautilus top, which makes strong sense. So here's the tank off in the top lane.
Yep, so just going to be Nautilus and Lucian. So one of Kramer's big picks here.
Okay.
Grab that one up, and it's going to be Zilean for the mid.
So I haven't been convinced by the Zilean picks when you don't have Poppy in the top lane. Specifically, the turret dives you can pull off with that combination, or the damage from Poppy makes that have a semblance of sense. Now you can understand that Maokai is similar in a lot of ways to Poppy, but it's single target engage, not so much the AoE engage that you can get from the instant cast of the Keeper's Verdict, but you can still pull off similar scenarios. Go for that teleport flank, turret dive, and have no worries, you're the tanky Maokai. So sticking with the tried and true Zilean, but it's not quite plan A when it comes to Zilean play that's really been effective across region. Interesting stuff. CJ with a much more balanced draft than we're used to. Looks less like the late game fests they've been opting into. We've been looking for CJ to show us something different because they've basically been abandon all hope of the first 30 minutes and then fight at 40 minutes. Be nice to see them try something different in this game, and so far it seems like a much more balanced draft, so maybe we'll get what we're hoping for.
Yeah. KT, though, do change things up with the Zilean, so we'll see how this is going to impact their play later on in the game, because I feel like this is going to be very contingent on them landing those double bombs to get those AoE stuns to pick through the ranks of CJ.
Worth noting they have Graves from the jungle, so they do have a damaged jungler to go along with Zilean, who, as you mentioned, is burst or sometimes almost purely utility in fights, but a lot of comfort on the side of KT. It's just, do these 5 champions make sense together? To some degree, yes, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Game 1 here coming up, CJ versus KT. Let's get into it.
Everybody wants to rule the world. There's a room where the light won't find you. Holding hands
All right, pretty evenly split amongst the audience members. Game 1 here. Let's see if the results of this one will impact the fans and which side they're going to be cheering for. Might get some traitors going out there.
The Korean casters.
Wow, we got some nice little sketches of the casters today.
Right, some artists out in full display. We saw the Dongjun only graphic before, but now we get some love for all 3. Pal Templar on the left, Dongjun on the right, and of course Caster Jun in the middle. So the reason why I talked about KT's comp and specifically a bit of a wait-and-see approach is that we've got 4 teleports this game. Untara, BDD, Someday, and Fly all taking the teleports, a double teleport on both sides. It's just one of these things is not like the other. Nautilus shows up, plenty of CC, targeted. Lissandra shows up, targeted CC. Someday shows up, targeted CC. Zilean shows up, has to hit some skill shots, maybe we'll hit an ult. Zilean is unlike the other 3 champs, not a high-impact teleporter, a lot like the Gangplank, for example, that we saw last game. So KT's comp, it's a lot more execution-heavy. Remember, CJ have 2 types of invulnerability between the Lissandra self-ult and the Kindred ult as well. So KT's comp requires more communication, requires more split timings, and teleport Zilean. What does that accomplish? It remains to be seen. So I feel like CJ's comp actually is more reliable. If they can actually take advantage of it early, I feel like it fights better. So can CJ finally show us that they can be an early game powerhouse? Because it's been literally late game team fighting only for CJ. And since we saw BDD enter the line.
Yeah. Well, this is the time to show it. Do or die time for this team. KT are still sitting pretty handily up in that 3rd place spot at the moment, inching ahead of Jin Air after their recent losses.
Standard lanes does favor CJ as well. They should be able to out-duel and pressure Arrow in particular on this Callister, as Lucian does have the early game advantage in trades. One thing I want to talk about is there's that feeling about CJ like they're underperforming recently. Oh, they had that big run, and now they've started to lose. But actually, it's not a news story. It still extends over the whole season. The last 3 series CJ have had, Jin Air, Rocks Tigers, SKT T1. 3 teams that are basically entrenched in the top 4. If you look over the course of the season, you see Mad Life looking for steal, not quite getting it. CJ against the top 4 teams, Rocks Tigers, SKT, Jin Air, and KT, have played 7 series against them. This would be the 8th we're seeing right now.
Yep.
In those 7 series, they have 2 game wins and 14 game losses. They have not performed against top teams. They are still a team getting better on the upswing. 0 series win against those teams. And again, it's not a surprise, but it's again, they were playing some of those easier, lower ranked teams. They haven't shown that they can beat the top teams.
Yeah. They were going off on a pretty good tear just a couple weeks ago. Had a 6-match win streak.
Against good teams. Samsung, for example,
Yeah,
in there.
there were some solid ones in there, and a lot of that was in part to
Take
ADD.
that.
Nice steal away by Score. Snatching that one up. Early recall coming in for some days. He goes back. Will pick up the double Doran's ring. Tara not quite yet going to be recalling. We'll see if he's going to do that in the near future. Maybe hold on to that teleport and try to make something happen in those few minutes that he has before someday will regain his TP.
One of the questions I had for KT, before they proved themselves in their last series 2 days ago, was regarding Someday, because he's been, once again, the carry this team needs this season. 6-1 Fiora, 4-1 Gangplank.
Oh, here we
Scores
go.
up top.
Yep. Someday going in with the twisted advance, locking down on Tara. Should be the flash immediately, and it will be. Score.
Damage.
Yeah, just throws down a little bit of damage. Doesn't arrive in time, but that's going to be a very susceptible Nautilus as we move forward here. Flash down. Now we'll see the recall from him. Likely going to have to TV back into this lane as well.
Sunday's champion pool has been narrow. He's always had a carry-focused mindset. 6-1 Fiora, like I said, 4-1 Gangplank. These are the carries we associate with Someday. He's turned Poppy into a pseudo-carry, just like all the best top laners in Korea have. 7-2 on that pick. So I thought, okay, these champions out, ban, nerfs to the Fiora. What's next? And of course I forget the Maokai, as Johnny takes a really bad trailer. Maokai is actually Someday's most played champion in LCK history. He comes into this game 18-4 lifetime in since the start of the LCK, so since the start of 2015 on Maokai. It's his most played champion by far. He looks comfortable on it. They won 2 games with it just 2 days ago. So back to comfort for Someday, but certainly not a damage carry from the top lane.
Yeah. It's also Someday. I think we can pretty much assume that he's able to play reliably on almost any champion that you do put him on. Score looks like he does take away the Raptors, but now getting caught out by BDD, has a lot of damage, will flash away. And it looks like they're just going to disengage. So Score will just get a little bit of invasive play, and walk away with his life still, but flash down.
Score has been the alpha. He stole away the Rift Herald, sorry, the Rift Scuttler, and then he stole away the Raptor. So feeling good about himself. Yep. Someday did, of course, go double Doran's Ring into Rod of Ages, so still some carry builds for Someday.
Interesting to note, though, Bubbling has gone Tracker's Knife on the Kindred, so going to be looking for more ward coverage instead of going for that Skirmisher Saber into the Devourer for more trade potential in those duels.
I mean, both jungles actually going for the Tracker's Knife. I guess it's one of those things where if you're Elise, you can understand building the Sightstone, but AD carries need a lot of items to be relevant, so you don't really fit in Sightstone. You don't want to give up wards, so that's why we do see the Tracker's Knife to have some semblance of utility outside the damage.
This is still just an interesting adaptation. We've seen the Graves more so than the Kindred building the Tracker's Knife. It's just a little bit odd to see Kindred doing it, so.
It's one of those things where Peanut wouldn't do it, but Peanut doesn't ward at all.
Yeah, Peanut is a ward.
CJ desperately wanting some sort of ward coverage. You feel bad if you're Kindred having to build the Tracker's Knife, but sometimes you gotta do it.
Yep. This is also a triple Fervor game this time, so both AD carries are running Fervor, as is Bubbling in the jungle.
Fervor for battle is real.
That it is.
Hopefully that means we see a bloody game with plenty of kills.
So far, not so much. Some invasive warding and some counterplay by Score, but overall, not too much going on.
I miss the LPL sometimes. I'm gonna be real. I know you talked about the LMS earlier, but sometimes you miss the games. I like it when the games start at the same time. I look at the timestamps, and 30 minutes into the game of Champions has maybe 6 kills, and then the LPL game has 29 kills, and you're like, wait, how did this happen?
That is like some LMS games as well. And I guess that's just the closeness that Taiwan and China have as far as their locations geographically. Maybe just something about that area of the world.
It's an old joke,
So
but
hyper aggressive.
an old joke, I've used it before, but Koreans use vision to avoid conflict, and the LPL region at least uses the vision to look for a stylish outplay. Someone's coming, I can kill him.
Yep. Used to see some really good stuff from AHQ last season where they would dive your bot lane with at least 4 members at about the 6-minute mark. It was typically before 7 minutes. There'd just be 4 to 5 people on your bot side of the map.
Slow onto BDD.
Messing you up. Yep, slow onto BDD. Double bomb connects. He's going to take a lot of damage. This is how these trades have been going, but BDD has been inching ahead very slowly as far as the CS goes.
Well, the big issue is that if you use the double bomb for harass, you have no other wave clear and a very slow auto attack as Zilean, so you're balancing lane control with the double bombs with any hopes of CSing, so bound to lose a couple as you go for those trades. So honestly, being even and being able to lane and get equal experience is a win for the Zilean, so far so good. Let's watch top lane, there's a lot of action there.
A lot of saplings and dredge lines just being thrown around. But overall, not too much going to come out of this one. Score, though, going to be pretty happy as he is out-CSing Bubbling, taking away these kindred marks as well. You can see Bubbling still just trying to get to that mark for the Devourer. Hasn't completed the recurve bow quite just yet. Should have the completion on his next back. But of course, Score is that much further ahead of him, going to be going for the Warrior enchant and outputting that much more damage early on as he comes in for these ganks.
Given that Fly has been winning trades in mid, that bodes well for Score. If he builds the immediate power that the Warrior enchant gives, then should be able to opt into Dragon Control, just because, again, Devourer versus Warrior. But you really want to fight if you have Warrior, and you're incentivized to farm if you have the Devourer. So lane control in mid, Warrior enchant build from the Graves means that early Dragon Control should go to KT. Might see a meeting of the wills here.
Yeah, well, just going to go for the ward. This is the second time that he's placed this one at the Krug, so just trying to keep track of Score. He will do so, and with that knowledge, moves over here to take the Rift Herald here, first of the game. I think they do have some idea of this as Untara has roamed out of
There we go.
this lane. Something coming around the side, and it's going to be the Rift Herald going down. Bubbling has to throw out the Lamb Switch right immediately, but almost nowhere to go. Will have to flash the wall if he wants to live through this one. The bomb connected, he flashes it all the same, and he goes down, maybe thinking that the bomb wouldn't kill him, but just big mistake there by Bubbling. Should have just accepted his fate and gone down.
Maybe they should have stuck with Cloud Templar.
Maybe they should have. And this is him getting his best champion.
Let's be fair, Bubbling's been pretty good in the second half of the season. Again, is he the fearsome jungler you want him to be? I don't think he'll ever develop into that. It's a guy who's been around the challenger scene for quite a while.
Yeah.
The flash here is a bit questionable.
I mean, you should have known that you were going to die. I think you should just accept your fate at that point. Score, though, coming up from this top side. It's going to be a TP coming in as well from Fly as they're looking for the dive. Tara quite low.
Goodbye, Tara.
Pushes out the damage. There's nowhere for him to go someday. Actually doesn't even need to take this one up. It's just going to be Score with the Graves. And they find their second kill. KT looking like they're playing very concise together.
And when you have lane control against Alessandro, that's the freedom you have. You can just roam out of mid, push up the lane, go for the turret dive. Zilean, if he gets a free laning phase, is one of the most fearsome mid laners because he's super fast with his E ability, just shows up in other lanes. Turret dives are the easiest things in the world if you got targeted CC, and we mentioned that's what Maokai provides. Gank for the Maokai lane, he can tank for days. Really nice play, clean from KT, but CJ's going to pick up a second neutral to answer the early game.
So, not resting on defeat here. Goes right back over. So picks up, as you said, their second one. So the Dragon going to be coming in here at 11.5 minutes just about. So could keep that scaling going in their favor.
Speaking of scaling, exact same timing for all 3 Rod of Ages is hilarious.
Oh yeah, double Rod of Ages in the mid lane and then one in the top side for Someday. So going for a more aggressive build. This is something that we thought we might have seen in the last game from Seoul, but did not go for that one.
Picking up the kill, picking up the assist, getting it 11 minutes is massive for Someday, so it's going to be a nice stack of health to go over with the natural resist his ultimate provides, and then resist will build into later.
Yep. You can see even without the double bomb connecting, we see a ton of damage coming out from just a single bomb by Fly.
Worth noting that it is very difficult to play the Zilean laning phase this well. This is clearly Fly. He's the only guy who's played multiple games of Zilean this season. This is clearly just his ability. He's got one of these interesting champion pools. He can play the Malzahar. He's playing the Zilean with the same sort of ability here. Chani Face checking bubbling,
It
but
goes around. He's safe. He's level 7. Does have the ultimate available, of course, as well as exhaust. But
is Alistar.
CJ pushing in. This is actually just going to draw out both teleports here. Someday answering should deter the dive, but PDD's here as well. It's going to be depth charge going in onto Arrows. He gets locked up. First two comes down onto him. He's actually going to fall. Tara finds a kill. Someday gets locked up as well. That's going to be a 2 for 0. I thought CJ were going to pull out of that one, but they fully commit. They find themselves some kills. Fly throwing out the bombs. Not going to be able to connect, but Score goes straight over to this mid lane. Will be able to take down the tower.
They draw a double teleport, get 2 kills, which is the big win, but can't pick up an objective just yet. They're gonna stick around and persist, so maybe they'll actually take down the turret. Again, strength in numbers is the story from CJ. Double teleport compared to just the single. Really nice tanking of turret. It's actually bubbling that takes the turret aggro, but has so many different ways to stay alive, especially with the ultimate, just able to kite out the aggro, so very clean from CJ Entus.
Yep. Very clean indeed. They find themselves currently just at a disadvantage of about 500 gold, despite the first blood and turret going over there to the side of KT. They were able to answer the tier 1 on the bot side as well, so keeping things fairly even. And now with that dragon, you know, they're pretty close. They're not losing this game quite just yet. KT was looking like they were playing a bit more concisely, but after that dive, CJ's showing, you know what? We can execute a dive just as well as you can.
The thing I want to return to is we spoke a bit about the rising priority and the rising effectiveness of Rift Herald in the previous series, and we saw Rift Herald take in this game and it didn't amount to anything. The reason there, and the one thing I want to point out to the viewers, is that in a lane swap, I think there's a lot of value in Rift Herald, because when you go for that second turret, you can sometimes push, get an inner turret, get an inhibitor at a faster clip because of the extra damage and movement speed that both your minions and the bearer of the buff can pick up. But when it's standard lanes, when there aren't any turrets down, when you can't really rotate and get an advantage out of rotation, in this sort of a game, the value of Rift Herald is much lower.
Yeah. Just picking up that gold.
Exactly. The gold and the movement speed and stats for the bearer, which is, of course, usually the jump.
Yep. Which, you know, without that gold, that would be KT that much further ahead of CJ. Unfortunately, they were unable to get the steal away on that one, just able to get the kill. Tara, wow. Really aggressive, goes for the dredge line, gets the flash away from Fly, though.
Didn't know what was coming behind him. They had no other vision, KT, so probably smart to flash. Fly's being annoying.
It's not a bomb. It's not going to do a whole lot to that Braum. Oh, Kramer, though, really far forward, and Score is here to duke it out. Flashes forward, straight into the face of the calling. And he takes him down, and that's a familiar sight, Kramer being way too far forward on the bottom side of the map.
I just love watching Score play champions like Graves and Kindred, because it must be cathartic for him to walk over to these young rapscallion 80 carries and just blow them away with Graves and Kindred. But I used to do this role. I could do it. I'm fine.
Yep. Now Arrow, all of his lonesome up in that top side. He's going to be quite safe to go ahead and whittle down this tower, which has already taken some significant damage. So should be able to be a turret kill coming in here. Bubbling though, flash pulverize, headbutts him back into the wall. Bubbling going to try to kite away, but the exhaust comes through. Can they get the chase on? Lamster Spite is available. He's going to be able to back out of there, so it's going to be a flash for Flash.
Does guarantee that they're going to find enough pressure to take this top lane turret. They'd already sent Arrow to start it up, and it will be confirmed now. So that's second outer turret down, only mid lane remaining for CJ Entus.
Yep. And I also like this a lot from KT. After pushing him out, they immediately ping the Scuttle Crab as they come over to it, because they know that that is the Kindred mark that Bubbling is going to be looking for. So they're continuously just denying him on all fronts where it's possible. 83 to 65 now in CS. Bubbling falling further and further behind this Graves and losing those passive marks for his champion, let alone the stacks for the Devourer.
The reason why KT was sending Arrow top and looking to take these outer turrets so early is because we returned to their comp. This comp is strongest in a 5v5 sense, because again, Zillion teleporting, and what's that really going to provide compared to Lasana, compared to Mount Nautilus, compared to Maokai and all their instant cast CC. Once you take all the outer turrets down, we get closer and closer to the grouping phase where you are 5-man grouped. That's where KT is strongest. So ending the laning phase as early as possible, remove these quadra turret dives that we're seeing that CJ pulled off to pick up their first 2 kills, is heavily incentivized to KT. So that's why they really wanted to rotate and take these outer turrets down, end the early game, and move to the grouping phase.
Yeah. They do offer that Zillion ultimate, though, with the GP, and So it can save a crucial
But
member
does
for those.
it? The channel's a long time. Are you going to be there in time? Is the person going to be burst down before you get there?
I'm just saying if you match TP with at the same pace as the enemy is, then you can do that. Unfortunately, they did not have that
Zillion ult
ready to
is
go.
literally one of the highest skill abilities in the game. Only a 5-second duration. You need to be so sure that person's going to die. There's a lot of counterplay for the enemy team. If you stack on, will I be in position after teleporting? Oh, I have to teleport and now Flash ult, will it work? We've already seen Flash Kindred ult misses. I think Flash Zillion ult again is too difficult, so end the laning phase, group is 5, the reliability of such a game-changing ultimate goes up.
Yep. Score pressing
Fight
in here,
time.
Bubbler taking a lot of damage. It's going to be TP coming in on the back side here as well from somebody who gets locked up. Mad Life jumped on. It's going to be the Twisted Advance, and he goes down Score with a very nice collateral damage, finding the first kill of the fight. Targets a double bomb onto him. Goes on the Riptide, trying to slow him up as much as he possibly can. Lambs is quite down to keep him alive. Beautiful ultimate from BDT, but isn't going to be enough. Several members of KT are solo. Kramer doing what he can. Can he get the kills? He's going to take down 2 in the end, but he does fall. And now the chase is on over to Lysandre, the last standing member of CJ, and he's going to go down. A nice route, but cannot find the damage to finish off Arrow. That is going to be an ace coming in. 2 for 5, or 5 for 2 rather, in favor of KT and their first dragon.
BDD played that perfectly, but unfortunately the rest of his cavalry fell down. The big difference between the two teams was the teleport spot. Someday was able to cut off an exit point and multiple members could get nowhere near the fight. Watch this teleport. You see the teleport coming in from CJ
Mad Life
compared
is
to
awesome.
Someday. Look at Someday, he's occupying 3 members in the backline, takes one out himself. So KT are able to focus fire on one person in the front line. CJ just have to run at the side of the Maokai, and just having access to that teleport ward. The difference in teleports is what won KT that fight, despite all the heroics from BDD.
Yeah, this was looking like Kramer might have been able to be the savior, but then gets locked down and taken out. Maybe if he had the Warlords, he would have been able to out-trade them in that one, but still falls, and in the end, it's going to be an ace over to the side of KT now. 8-4 in kills, up 4,000 gold, not even 20 minutes into this game. And Score,
Casually.
just, I'll take that, throws out the collateral damage again, takes away the blue, feels bad, man.
Score is an amazing jungler. He's had poor games this season, it has to be said, but when he's on form, when he's on comfort, he plays so impressive. This is why I would have called this guy the best jungler in Korea at the start of the season. Peanut deserves the title now.
Oh, for
but
sure.
Score on form, with his class, with his experience, is really an amazing jungler.
Yeah. Solid stuff by him, and that's actually the Rift Herald offed itself. They weren't able to kill at a time.
Sad days.
Sad day. So once again, feels bad, man. Steal a blue. Rift Herald steals himself.
Rift Herald is just the ultimate bad luck story in League of Legends. It's always a feels bad man.
Yeah, pretty much.
Goes on his vacation.
His evolutionary path to becoming a big, beautiful Baron.
Or 3 Rod of Ages, going to be coming online just after 21 minutes. KT continuing their push. They don't have the Rift Herald, which might have actually been the difference at pushing it in this minion wave, but they're just going to tank it up.
Yeah, they can still take this here. Graves is fairly tanky.
The more turrets that fall again, the more closer we get to a pure 5v5 phase. We're probably there at this point, to be honest. No reason for Zillion to be away from his allies, just there as a speed up buff while Maokai tries to finally push this outer bot lane turret, which actually is still up.
Yeah. Surprisingly, but we haven't seen too much attention being drawn down to that bottom side outside of the dive that ended in KT's tier 1 going down. KT have not really visited that side.
Yeah, I told a lie
Quite
before.
just yet.
I just assumed the mid lane turret was still up, but Graves didn't push it earlier.
Yeah.
It was the bot lane
He
turret
took,
they
he
never
took it
got to.
during that dive. He did whittle down that mid tier 1. So that gives a 2-tower advantage over to KT as they stretch that gold lead even further. Now tied in Dragons as well. Second one for either team should be coming online in just a little bit. And Baron, of course, after Rift Herald went on his little vacation, has spawned. So we could see that one coming through. We saw a really cheeky, near complete Baron sneak in that last game from the side of Spenu.
I mean, KT could duo Baron with Someday and Arrow, but it would take a really, really long time. So even though it would be safe, it's not worth the effort. 3-man Baron with Graves is possible, but that's a lot more conspicuous. So not a high. You need a consistent damage mid laner, like for example Azir, to really be able to stealthily get one of those Baron secures at 20 to 25 minutes. This is probably not the game for KT.
Probably not. see though, check in on Bubbling and see how he's doing with those Devourer stacks. Next time we do hover over him. Because we are at 22 minutes and he's at 26 stacks, so not too bad. We've seen significantly worse games here for Kindred's been stacking those Devourers, most notably 37 minutes without even completing Sated.
I mean, if your early game's going well, feels like 19 minutes is probably the average part time, but
Yeah.
if you're 0, 2, and 4, you definitely take 22, 24 minutes.
I was expecting worse from Bubbling in this game so far, so
We've
I
seen,
will
like,
say,
we've seen over 30 minutes before.
yeah. 33, I think, was the longest I've seen with a Sated. 37, the longest I've seen without a Sated even coming through by the end of the game. So, but yeah, I will say I misjudged Bubbling here. I thought that he was going to be around 21, 22 marks, not quite at the 27. So, doing better than I thought.
That's been the story of Bubbling in 2016, doing better than we thought.
I don't know if that's...
We did not think very
At
much.
times, that's true. But then there's also times where we think that... where it just seems like he's doing worse than we ever thought possible.
Look, if we do anything here on the Champions broadcast, it's realistic expectations for players. No one expects Bubbling to ape score or be a top-level jungler.
But after we saw that one performance where he had some fantastic Gragas casks
That
against
doesn't make
Jin
him
Air,
a good jungler. That
but-
means he's not awful.
No, I'm just saying we saw some amazing casks from in game 1, and then we went into game 2 and we thought, oh wow, he can actually play Gragas pretty well. And then it just became utterly awful. And in the game 3, because he decided to play it every single game, which is very questionable. See though, KT finally paying some attention to this bottom side tier 1. Just a few more hits. It's going to be TP coming in from Someday, however, going to be matched by Untara up in that top side. Looks like it's just going to be a general disengage. Untara canceling that one out to push the wave up in the top side of the map. And that will be the tier 1 going down here in favor of KT. So CJ knowing that they can't really fight that fight.
KT have a good burst. Chinese take a lot of damage, but hasn't popped the ult yet. There is double TP. It's actually no, Untara has no teleports. It has to go warp to bottom lane.
Yep. BDD trying to pressure out that mid tier 1 though. Fly could answer with a TP of his own should he deem it necessary, but he's a Zillion. He can zip his way up there with the W.
So he sped up Maokai instead, which will force BDD's retreat. No turret picked up by CJ.
KT continuing to make some strong moves around the map and get themselves these global objectives. Now, second dragon looking like it might go down in their favor. Nothing much CJ can do. Callista Rend with the smite there from Score. Tara coming in. Tries to get the dredge line, but a match flash there by Fly will keep him safe.
Second time he's had to flash away from the dredge line.
Double bomb stun here. The Twisted advance onto Mad Life. Throws out the Glacial Fissure. Does knock up Someday. The bomb's coming through again. Mad Life jumps away, but he's going to go down. Fly finding the kill. Johnny going deep. Now pops the Alistar ultimate, still keeping himself alive. The BDD locking up Fly and Arrow in the backside. Has to go straight into the Zonia. Score on the run as a Hexdrinker shield gets popped. BDD, can he find anything? Trying to get Hachani. He will find it, but here comes Fly. Let's see if he can answer for this one. So far, it's a 3-for-1 in favor of KT. Score, despite being solo, firing out the shots. And Fly with the last second ultimate will keep himself alive. It's going to be a 4-for-1 in the end. Just a Johnny going down. And KT going to get a tier 2 tower in the mid side, more than likely. If not, they're going to go over with this Baron.
You can tell Fly is a Zillion man. He decided, all right, you're juking all my skill shots. I'm going to bomb myself and just get in melee range with ultimate down. You can't kill me or res me at higher health. Man. This is really good to see, and KT fighting as a 5-man team, and so many times we've seen BDD full health, ult up, and just not fighting with his teammates. Obviously a lack of communication between the members of CJ. Late game team fighting, they've looked strong. 26 minutes on the clock, not really been their time. They don't have a late game team fighting comp this time either. It's very even in terms of late game scaling, and CJ lose that fight.
Yep. I like that play by Fly and the Baron, just throwing out the bombs on every which way that they can come in.
Something's already unkillable, able to itemize second into Spirit Visage, just take no damage in the front line. And the question is, where is BDD during all of this? He gives a nice 2-man ult, but his tank line is already squishy, and Tara's just alone. A couple of the threats are down. CJ's team fighting, which again has been their calling card in the late game, not on display here.
Certainly not. Fly, the bombs are on point. Playing this Zillion to a T. Now with a blue buff, even more harass coming out. We can see Rod of Ages, Morello Nomicon completed for him. We'll see where else that build is going to take him. But so far, 4-0-7. Fly is on a fast track for an MVP in this game. Oh, another fight breaking out as Untara gets locked up here by Someday, taking a lot of damage. The bomb's ticking as well. Nice pulverize. And Spite does come down to try to keep him alive, but Arrow's just been stacking up the Rens this entire time. Fly, though, gets caught out by BDD, who has to go straight into the Zonias. When he comes out of this, let's see if he can get anything or if he's just going to die. It's going to be the latter. He falls. Fly finishes him off with an auto attack. That's going to be the tier 2 in the mid lane going down. Now with just Kramer and Bubbling alive, they have to retreat and recuperate. Looks like this could be the inhibitor line getting broken here at 27.5 minutes.
I mean, KT's front line outclasses CJ's any day of the week. Sunday has so much health with their Art of Age, now Spirit Visage and Frozen Heart. Graves can function as a huge front
Are they just going to go for the game here?
They're
It looks like
going for
they
it.
might. 13 seconds on Mad Life. Bubbling, no Lambs for Spite available. First Nexus start gonna fall. Fly still has the ultimate available as Arrow gets the chase on the Bubbling, who just has to dash away. Looks like KT gonna have to peel out of the base here. They don't have Someday to tank up the turret. With limited waves coming in, they just back off. But the Nexus already getting ready to be exposed, and Super Creep's gonna be storming down through the base. TP coming into the back though. However, who's it gonna be? Looks like it's gonna be Antara. BDD joining maybe quite soon. Antara comes in, still a very tanky Nautilus, locks up at Johnny. The bombs come through, they grab him up the dredge line, they just have to sacrifice him and let him go. Mad Life and Bubbling chasing on the other side. BDD did TP above them, flies here, ultimate available. BDD goes in, ultimate down onto Arrow as BDD uses the Frozen Tomb onto himself. Let's see if Arrow gets popped, if they just keep him alive. He's trying to get that pop, but he cannot do it. He falls, and CJ are actually turning this on its head. Score comes over the wall, does finish off Bubbling, however. Now the chase onto him as a Q from the Braum disconnect. Concussive blows come through. He gets locked up. Score gonna fall. Can he answer with a kill onto Kramer?
Gets
he
it.
does. Nicely played by Score, making the best out of a bad situation. But CJ are losing this Nexus tower. Will not go down here, but still a lot of damage being output. But CJ firing back, getting some kills of their own.
Really swingy set of skirmishes. I guess 2 fights really broke out by the end of all of that. The second time saw the perils of Zillion. Used the ult a little bit too early onto Arrow. He lives. They wait out the timer. CJ's target selection is much better in this second fight. Smart of KT to not try to use the ult on Hachani. Obviously they could have done it, but rezzing an Alistair at full health isn't a big consideration. Double TP was up. That's why BDD found this extra spot. Because BDD just ulted, Arrow couldn't tell if there was going to be a spell cast at the same time as the ult. Had to reactionarily ult. Both carries go down. As this fight resolved, Score had spent so much time on the outscales. He probably does more damage than Someday can really respect. Because we're watching, this is 3v1, and he still pops Kramer. We can only imagine what would happen if Someday came out. Probably would have been maybe a 2-for-2 overall, but they take the 1-for-1. Someday lives, no free objectives. Really fun to track, and now we're getting to late game team fighting mode. And it's getting even. It's about 10,000 gold lead though, and it's only if CJ can start to cut that down in half will we see the even team fights that CJ are known for.
Yeah, and something crazy is right now Score is about almost 5,000 gold ahead of Bubbling on this Graves. He's just been an absolute monster. We saw how well this Derek's Gage has been paying off for him in that last fight, able to get the kill in the 1v3. And now KT, with Super Creeps pushing into that mid lane, looking to pressure up on this bottom side of the map. Fortunately, the top side pushing against them. So they will have to answer that wave or risk losing a tier 1 tower in the top. But for now, they can stick around and just whittle down this turret down here. We can see Someday just more than happy to tank up the aggro from this turret.
See minions pushing for the lanes as well.
Oh, yep. Turret down to half HP now. Arrow and Score get in here. They are able to take it out. BDD trying to pitch around the backside. He gets a 3-man root. Fly taking a lot of damage. The Frozen Tomb comes down onto him. Will get out alive. It's going to be the depth charge onto Arrow. Does he get the heal from the Zillion ultimate? He has to go down for this one, though. Looks like he's going to be able to just keep himself alive. Antara, maybe the next one to fall. They do finish off Arrow, but the rest of KT quite healthy. Bomb connects and Score able to get that last auto attack. Bubbling on the run. The cheeky TP coming in from Someday and Fly to answer this one as well. They try
Run,
to slow up the
Sapling!
Sapling. Gets rid by the Twisted Advance. That's going to be the kill. That's going to be the game as Score is still in the base, taking out the Nexus. Rough loss here from CJ. 15,000 just about of a lead for KT. Double their kills and 10 times the turrets.
CJ's hopes of making the playoffs is already an outside chance and looking almost completely dashed. Still 2 games left in the series, but it was a comfortable win for KT. Really impressed with how they played, specifically rotating, taking those turrets. And after we saw one excellent double TP game with the instant cast CC, the Lissandra and Nautilus, they avoided that. There were no more laning phase shenanigans where double TP would come up trumps for CJ. And CJ moving away from the late game comp into something that was a lot more competitive in the early game didn't work for them. It was a comfortable win for KT.
Yep. A lot of that having to do with fly on that Zillion, of course score on the Graves, taking things away from Bubbling early on, getting a massive CS lead, just snowballing as that Graves and just working through those fights. He did some serious damage in that game.
Graves, Maokai, Alistair, all frontliners, all can go as balls to the wall as they want, and they get rezzed by Zillion. That's why the comp worked. Helped that score was fed, so he was pretty innately tanky and then had the pocket Zillion ult as well.
Yep.
Well fought, well played by KT.
Well played indeed. Let's see if it's going to be a 2-0 shutout or if CG can answer when we come back with game 2.